Chinese version. My wife put it on. Not going to fit what I need.
Put it on
I
and
know.
report to me your files.
Good afternoon. This afternoon we have a rule development workshop on several policies and an update on our alternative learning centers. Pam, roll call please.
Mrs. Belford?
Present.
Ms. McDougall?
Present.
Mrs. Deskovich?
Present.
Ms. Campbell? Present. And Mr. Susan?
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have board policies 2371, Hope Scholarship, 5350, Student Suicide, 8390, Animals on District Property, 8400, Environmental Health and Safety Issues, and 9160, Public Attendance. The Rule Development Workshop is the public's first opportunity for public comments regarding these revisions. It looks like all of these belong to Student Services, so I will now turn it over to Chris Moore, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, to present the executive summary of the revisions.
All right, I'm going to be doing both of these things at once, so bear with me. That'll work? Yay! 2371, Hope Scholarship. This policy is being developed in compliance with applicable Florida law. This law provides that students in public schools are eligible to apply for a Hope Scholarship if they are subjected to an incident as that term is defined in Florida statute. The policy outlines provisions related to eligibility, required investigations, parental notification, statewide assessments, and the terms of a Hope Scholarship. This new policy outlines that students are eligible for a Hope Scholarship if it is established that the student was subjected to and subsequently reported an incident. These proposed revisions encompass the suggested language from Neola.
Is there anyone present to address the revisions to Board Policy 2371, Hope Scholarship? Is there anyone present to address the revisions to Board Policy 2371, Hope Scholarship? Ms. Moore.
Oh, okay. This is a slow computer. Oh, if you want to see it, I'll pull it up in a second. 5350, student suicide. This policy is being revised to clarify procedures for ensuring all staff have access to suicide prevention resources through professional development and other changes in compliance with applicable Florida law. Particular areas of revision include the following: title change to student suicide awareness and prevention, and in-service requirements for schools to become a suicide prevention certified school. These proposed revisions encompass the suggested language of Neola.
Is there anyone present to address the revisions to Board Policy 5350, Student Suicide? Is there anyone present to address the revisions to Board Policy 5350, Student Suicide? Ms. McDougall, question?
Yeah, I do have a question. Ms. Moore, under section E, number 4, and it talks about who, I want to know who are the appropriate people. Do we need to spell those out, or I just want to make sure I understand who they're talking about.
All right, let me get to my section.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. E number 4, communicate with the appropriate parties.
Yes.
It is within the procedure that we have posted online, our SRI procedures, because the appropriate parties is going to depend on where we are.
In the threat assessment?
In the in the suicide
Threat
risk
assessment.
inventory.
Okay.
Yeah. So listing them out is going to.
That's what I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure, because I thought appropriate. I just wanted to better understand that.
It's in the process, and that is, I think we sent that to you, and we're going to put that as part of this policy.
Okay.
And procedures. Okay.
Oh, it's under step 4. In our, down at the bottom.
In the procedures? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It says communicate with appropriate parties, and it lists all the people, 1, 2, 3. At the bottom. You see that, Cheryl?
I'm not. Where are you?
Go down to,
For communication with appropriate parties.
yeah, where it
I
says
see what
step
you're
1,
saying.
step 2, step 3.
And then see step 3 and above. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay. 8392, Ms. Moore.
8390? 8390, animals on district property. This is a proposed new policy to address service animals on district property for students, employees, parents, legal guardians, vendors, visitors, and other changes in compliance with applicable state and federal law. There are currently a number of policies that mention animals on district property. The passage of this proposed new policy is in compliance with House Bill 71 in order to comply with Florida statute. The proposed new policy includes a definition of service animal, clarifies the vaccination, licensing, veterinary requirements, eligibility for transportation of service animals, removing and/or excluding service animals and non-service animals on district property. New proposed administrative procedures, 8390, animals on district property procedures, will be presented for approval related to this policy. The proposed new policy reflects the requirements set forth in current state and federal law.
Is there anyone present to address the revisions to Board Policy 8390, animals on district property? Is there anyone present to address the revisions to Board Policy 8390, animals on district policy? 8402, Ms. Moore.
8400, environmental health and safety issues. This policy is being revised to remove the section related to animals on district property and other changes in compliance with applicable state and federal law. Particular areas of revision include the following: the deletion of the animals on district property section. The animals on district property section will be included in a new proposed board policy, 8390, animals on district policy. The new proposed policy will address animals permitted on district policy. Administrative procedures, 8400B, student use of service animals, will be repealed and readopted as administrative procedures, 8390, animals on district property procedures. These proposed revisions encompass the suggested language of Neola.
Is there anyone present to address the revisions to Board Policy 8400, environmental health and safety issues? Is there anyone present to address the revisions to Board Policy 8400, environmental health and safety issues? 9160, do you, Ms. Moore?
9160, public attendance at school events. This policy is being revised to clarify language concerning the accessibility of district facilities to individuals with disabilities at school events and other changes in compliance with applicable state and federal law. In addition, this policy will include clarifying language for individuals with disabilities to be accompanied by service animals. These proposed revisions encompass the suggested language of Neola.
Is there anyone present to address the revisions to Board Policy 9160, public attendance at school events? Is there anyone present to address the revisions to Board Policy 9160, public attendance at school events? This concludes the rule development portion of our meeting. Next, Ms. Moore will provide us with an alternative learning center update.
All right, let's see if we can get this to work. So I'll be sitting for most of this. We're sharing this presentation. I think everybody knows Misty Bland. She is our director for alternative sites. She has been working, she's been working herself sick, quite frankly, on both the alternative sites and some of our other partner sites and the other things that she has. So I just wanted to lead by saying thank you to the board for approving this director position back in June and getting Misty on board for July. And a thank you to Misty, who is clearly under the weather. I said to her, stay home, stay home, stay home. And her exact quote is, I would never do that to you.
But I will stand over here
Yeah.
so no one gets sick. And I'll have to go back and forth because I have allergies in my eyes, so I can't see because I'm getting old. Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time to talk about what's going on with the ALC. I know that's a hot topic for everybody. We've been hearing it over and over again, so I really appreciate you giving me that time. There's different forms of the alternative education, and they're written down. I want to read it because I don't want to make sure that I get them wrong. There are many different types of alternative schools. There's a school within a school that's actually housed in a traditional school, and it has specialized educational programs. There's a separate alternative school, and it's separated from regular school, but it has different academics and social adjustment programs. There's continuation schools that are developed for students that are no longer attending traditional schools, maybe doing on-the-job training or parenting classes. There's magnet schools that offer an intensified curriculum, usually in subjects like math or science. And of course, we offer a last chance school, an alternative school for disruptive students, for them to go to still be providing education. The NAEC, which is the National Alternative Education Association, provides standards for the alternative centers to actually follow so that we make sure that we are doing what we need to do for kids and make sure they're being successful. And there's actually 15 different indicators. You were given a packet of that. I don't know if you want to take a few moments to look at it, you want me to continue, or you want to look when I speak. It's up to you if you want to take a minute to look at it, if you want to just continue. Okay.
So everybody had a chance to preview?
All right. Currently, as you can see, there's 15 different standards / indicators that they like to talk about. We focused, well, we've hit all of them as we've been looking through it, but we've really focused on these 5 as of right now in the last only 5 months that I've been in this position. But that's where our focus has been right now, trying to figure out what can we need to do, what can we do immediately to really help our kids be successful there. Obviously, there's been some changes, me, and not only just being the director of the Alternative Learning Centers, I take care of about 10 sites. I take care of the behavioral sites, Philston and Riverdale, also Devereaux, the Bard Group Treatment Home, which is in Titusville. I also take care of AMI kids, the Melbourne for Personal Growth. What else do I do? Outward Bound, Juvenile Drug Court Liaison, which I'm with them every single Friday of my life. And it's been really amazing partnering with the judge. I mean, she's really been able to do a lot for us, building that relationship.
Which judge is it?
Morgan Ryman. Morgan Ryman. Claire Ryman. Sometimes she puts her middle name in, sometimes she doesn't.
I didn't know we had a group home in Titusville. Like, well, we don't. Is it?
Well,
We service children that are in the group home.
we only have a couple of kids there. Most of the kids come from out of county that are sent from, and I'm also in charge of DJJ and Big Boy Jail. But kids that are sent from DJJ, if there is an issue, they usually go there. They're still following our curriculum. Our teachers are still teaching them that they're a contracted site.
Who oversees the group home in general?
It's Aspire. It's an actual counseling service that actually. Miss Tagey was at Pathways for Pine Grove, and she was moved to Pathways at Gardendale. She did ask to be moved based on that she lives in Port St. John area, so that's a long haul. And plus, I believe there need to be a change for many reasons. And also, Mr. Cejek was hired for Pathways at Pine Grove, and he's been doing an amazing job. Okay, now we're under Standard 2, which is leadership. I didn't say the other one, but these are some of the things that has been changing. But before I say anything, I want to say thank you to Russell Cheatham and Dr. Sullivan and Sue, for sure. Without them, I would never get these things done. If I send an email or anything, they look at me like, oh, how are we gonna do this? But they do it. And so I can't thank them enough because I wouldn't be able to get any of these things done without them. So the internal account, before, they had to contact the district to be able to order anything, to be able to get anything for their students, whether they want to do some, a lunch for their students or anything that they wanted to do, they couldn't do. Now they have an internal account and they're able to fundraise and get money in there and to be able to have some autonomy and to really meet the needs of their teachers and their students. Facilities, rooms have been painted, the AC output has been improved. It is now, you're not sweating to death, it's amazing. And the teachers, I've received so many emails about how fabulous it is. It's not completely fixed, but we're getting there. Summer, it's supposed to be perfect. And Dr. Sullivan didn't forget about us and sent us a little love note about FF&E. So I was able to provide the students with locked storage cabinets. I know that sounds so silly. What did I say?
Students.
Sorry, teachers with locked storage cabinets. It seems simple to one of us. They had nothing to lock their purse up with, their personal items, nothing. So I'm asking, like, why are you carrying your purse around? Because I don't have anything to lock it up with. And because the ones they had, they did have them in the past, but they broke. So now they have that. Computers were purchased for both sites. I'm not quite sure how it was done. Some were refurbished, but Russell Cheatham is the man. They were purchased for both sites, and all students have access to a working computer. At our fullest capacity, they have a computer, so no one can tell you otherwise. They have one, I promise. We also have computer carts to keep them charged and stored, and just to try to keep them not to be damaged.
Ms. Bland, the AC and storage cabinets, is that at both facilities? Or was it one that had AC problems? Or?
Only AC had a problem in South.
Okay.
North didn't have, but locked storage for both. Number 7, which is standards is 11 and 12 for counseling and social work. This was a huge change, probably one of the biggest. One of the things that Chris Moore asked for was that teachers had more time with kids in classes that they really needed. I mean, they had a CTE class, but sometimes it didn't equate when they went back to their school, and the principals, and I know, I'm like, where does this go? How am I fitting this? How do they get a grade for this? And because students work on the computer Odyssey-ware, it's hard. It's not easy. So they need more time. So they have they work into an hour classes. They have the 4 core classes, plus they have peer counseling, and they now have reading and learning strategies. Kids that don't need learning strategies or reading, they now are able to make up that math class, that English class, whatever, to keep them focused on. You're going to go back to your home school. This is just a stint. You need to go back. So we try to really look at their credits and see what they need. Talk with the home school and say, can we register them in this class to get them to be up with their grade? Counseling. There has been a big change. We had peer counseling and social. The social worker had their own class. What happened was the peer counseling and the social worker, they were pretty much teaching the same thing. So if they're talking about drugs one day, they might be talking about anger management or whatever their little curriculum showed them. The peer counseling class is fabulous, but we're missing something. Kids go there for a reason. We need to be addressing that offense. So now social workers actually meet with kids in a group, and they talk about why are they there. If they're there for fighting, they discuss that. Yes, the kids that are in there that are fighting are in there as well. Does it always work? No, but it's a work in progress. But they talk about it. Why did we get here? Why did we get suspended and sent to the alternative program? What could we have done different? So I have seen that as a change. I have talked to students, and students said, I'm not going to lie, Ms. B, I was really going to come here and do something. But after going through and talking with the social worker, working as a group, they really feel like they can make it. Another big change is MTSS, which is multi-tier system of support. We have an ESE support facilitator that is on both campuses once a week. That is huge. I would love to have that on my campus as much as I have this for the ALCs, but obviously we need it. What this does is this person actually meets with the counselor, the administrator. They discuss kids, really what's going on with that kid. Do we need to, they need further evaluation. What do they need? Because, is what we're doing working? Is it not? Where do we need to go? And as a group, they discuss that. And we've really made some changes and really moved kids from a regular class to an IND class, believe it or not, by following these procedures. Also, we're able to see, is group counseling, individual counseling working? If it's not, we refer them to an outside counselor. If we can't meet their needs, we have someone that can, and we refer them.
Ms. Land, I know we're kind of early in this process, but is that work that you're doing in that area going to be something that will translate forward when they go back to their home campus, and what will that look like?
The counseling, if they're in outside counseling, they will keep counseling that kid. It doesn't just stop. It stops when the kid says, the kid's fixed, or the parents say, we're not doing this any longer. Because obviously the parent has to be okay with it. Because this counseling is not just student only, it's student and parent. So they come in, if you just refer them for student counseling, and they see that the family needs counseling, that company, the CAT team, actually signs them up for it. They don't even involve us in it. So it's been pretty refreshing. They kind of take over the whole thing. So that's been really nice.
Are we actually providing ESE services at the ALCs?
Yes. I'll be honest, do I think that, can it be better? Yes, and we're working on that. But we have learning strategies That's the reason I kept that. All the ESE kids are in that class. They get, and there's an IA in there as well. They get individualized help every single day as a group or individual, and they work. Actually, they have group, and they have differences, and each person gets with the teacher, and I won't say every day, but they definitely get with the IA every day, and they get with the teacher probably 3 or 4 times a week, easily. Yes.
I have questions about the group counseling, like how, because the social work class is gone now, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so when are they getting group counseling? Is that during the day? Is it during the peer counseling class?
They go to the peer counseling class. The kids that are, we have a whole schedule. It's actually written out of when kids have what class, when they can be pulled, when they can't be pulled. And sometimes they are pulled out of the peer counseling. Not always. The kids that don't need their reading class slash learning strategies, they're pulled primarily out of that class.
So who's leading the group counseling?
The social worker.
Does each one have its own social worker, each school?
Each school has its own
Hey.
social worker unit. We
Yes.
have not been able to find and fill the social worker position in the South area. We have, I think,
Except I
4
want to
vacancies.
still say that we also have ECHRD counseling. They're there every single day. And the ECHRD counselor at the South area has been a champ. She's been running group. South has not skipped a beat at all.
So they're pulled during the day for group counseling. Does every student get touched by group counseling?
Every
Or
student gets touched by group counseling.
at least once a week?
Yes, ma'am. And every student gets individual counseling.
By who?
The guidance counselor, or they separate it by guidance counselor because she's a mental health counselor. The guidance counselor, social worker, or the ECHRD counselor.
So every single week, because this was not happening previously, every single week, every student is getting individual counseling at least once by one of those 3 people and in a group session.
I'm not going to say every individual, but every group. For sure, every group. And then for the kids that need it, if we can't provide it, they're sent out for individual counseling. And also,
Do we
have
know
it
if
there.
they show, I'm sorry to harp on this, I just think
No,
this
please do.
is so important.
I
These
know.
kids are struggling, I want to make sure they're getting the help they need. Do we follow up to make sure they're showing up to the third-party counseling? Is that during the school day? Are we just hoping they'll do it on their own time?
That's after school. They actually make home visits.
Okay, and so we know, yes, they've been showing up for counseling the whole time.
They do
they've been
follow
here.
up with us. They don't tell us a lot, but they say, yes, they're going to counseling and they're participating, or no, you need to drop them, that they're not doing it, so we need more kids.
Who tracks that and follows up with that?
The CAT team, and it's through circles, but and Ms. Morbeck will tell you a little bit more about it. She's actually the one that gave it to me, but it's a group that said they can only take on so many kids. They couldn't do it for everybody in the district, so the ALC's got them. I'm very thankful for it. So they're able to really give their all to our kids. We probably have right now like 27 kids and families in it. I know that sounds like a low number, but it's hard to get the people to get the parents to want to be involved. They don't have to go to their house. They can meet them somewhere. We have had them meet at the ALC if they choose. It's up to them.
Okay,
It's the parent that we're working on.
understood.
Misty, with the individual counseling that goes on by the social worker that is on site, do we get approval from the parent for individual counseling? No. So
No.
a kid can say, I need to see the social worker, I need to talk to her, and the parents don't have to be part of that. Okay.
And kids, to be honest, when I say not all kids get touched, the kids that need to be touched, for sure, they get touched because they constantly walk up and say, I need to speak with you today. They let the administrator know, I'd like to speak with, we ask that every single day, does anyone need to speak with the guidance counselor, the social worker, the ECHRD counselor today? And if it's on that list, they get seen on top of everybody else that's on the list. I mean, everybody's doing the best they can with, with what they have and trying to meet kids' needs. And there's so many variety of needs. And that's why we did the group, because you're able to hit more kids and really get why they're there, their offense, and really talk about anger management. Because we have kids that they're not in there for drugs. They were clean when they took their drug test. And we need to focus on what they need to focus on. Yes, sir.
Ms. Moore, can you expand on why it is so difficult to fix that social worker at the South Area ALC, why it is so difficult to fill that, because I think that's a big.
Yeah, there are several reasons. There are social worker vacancies in our district, across the district. We've had 2 open up here at the district the entire year, and there's, I think, 2 more in schools. Number one, social workers aren't coming out of universities in great large numbers. Number 2, with the emphasis on mental health, a lot of our mental health agency partners hire social workers as well as mental health clinicians. So there are few coming out, and there's a high demand for all of them. We have to make our jobs important to them, and not just important to them in the way that they have purpose, because they have purpose as a social worker anyway, but in the things that we can offer, like FRS and summers off and school hours with your kids and things like that, as well as compensation. So.
And Ms. McDougall, you may be able to give me I would argue that, and I'm probably stepping in hot water here, that this is one of the most important social worker positions we have in the district, being that they're in the ALCs. Would you consider that?
I would say any social worker.
I do. I don't. What I was getting
I'm a little
at.
prejudiced, but yes. I think these are kids who haven't developed coping skills, who don't know how to deal with their anger, who come from a home, who knows what home they're coming from. So absolutely, so this is crucial. Absolutely.
So the reason I was asking is this, is there a way to enhance that position with a stipend or something to be able to attract a social worker into those positions? I just see it as a burnout position, one that's doing a lot more than maybe other positions. Maybe it's a higher, like you were just saying, maybe it's being a harder one because there's other options that are available, and maybe there's a way to incentivize that position. Is that possible?
I have learned to refer all questions about adding stipends to any position to my friend, Dr. Beth Betty.
Or is that something we could look at, Dr. Betty?
I think it needs to be looked at in the totality of all supplements.
Sure.
I think that we open a can of worms when we start picking and choosing without going through the obvious negotiation process with BFT, because it's all supplements are negotiated. Stipends might be a different story, but still
I'm not so sure a stipend, Matt, because I belong to the National Association of Social Workers here in Florida too, and there's some misconception about what the role of a social worker in a school, and I was trying to enlighten them, and that's maybe something that Dr. Teddy, you and I, and Ms. Moore, we can work on. Like, how do I get the word out that this is a very cool job, and it's a job that's very impactful. If you want to make a difference, this is where you want to come. So I would be glad to work with you both on how do I reach some of our Florida association members that might be interested.
And I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking a second for that. The main reason I asked was not many inside the public, we consistently are asked, we need more social workers, we need more social workers. But the capacity of hiring is so limited in our space because of what you just laid out, and I just wanted to reiterate that for the public is that piece, and then if there's anything that we can do to support that, Ms. McDougall, however you can get there. I think that because the more I learn about this world, even over the last 2 weeks with a lot of the pre-K stuff, it is arguably one of the most important pieces of our district, so thank you.
Thank you.
And just so you know, I've also advertised it part-time.
No, I know. You've been doing
Anything I can get
anything.
anybody to come in. So every meeting I'm going to, I'm like, you're a social worker, you want to be hired? I've tried, believe me.
So we're going to keep trying.
The next standard is climate and culture, and we have, all of this is a work in progress. The behavioral positive intervention, both schools have a ticket procedure that they give out to kids when they're doing anything, something good behaviorally, academically, the teachers can give it out, and they're rewarded that day. Because they were just doing just Fridays, but I felt like everybody likes rewards. Everybody wants to know they're doing a good job. And for kids, sometimes, at least with my own personal ones, 15 minutes is a long time. So they're able, with the ticket system, they're able to give kids tickets that day. The kids can turn in the tickets and receive their reward that day. I'm going to be honest, we're still working. It's a work in progress. Not everybody believes in it. Just a few still believe that this is a last chance school and that they should have to bargain or bribe kids to behave. So it's a work in progress. I feel like we're gonna get them there. But again, we are trying everything. We also have Fun Friday. Relax, it's only one time a month, and it's only for 2 hours. But what we did, we changed it from what it was. It used to be a free day. Like, kids colored, I just did all kinds of things. Now what we do, we take that time and kids get things that they would normally get at traditional school. They now get art. The curriculum resource teachers have been fabulous. Anytime I call them, they're amazing about coming to help, and they actually come paint with kids, ceramics with kids. So kids are doing things and they actually write what they want to do. You know, on this Friday, this is what I want to do. And I think it's important. It's amazing to see the kids sitting there and, you know, actually doing something, and they really enjoy it. So they have wanted to behave and not have issues, so they can do that. Peace Institute training. The South area, our Pathways at Pine Grove, said, you know, it's great that we have a social worker and we have a counselor, but we really want to be able to fish for ourselves a little. You know, we have minor things that go on in the classroom. How do we deal with conflict resolution? How to talk things out? And Mr. Sejek is from Miami-Dade. He actually went through the Peace Institute. He talked with them about it and just said, hey, I did this. The teachers literally started sending me emails in droves. How can we do this? This would be awesome. We'll come whenever. And I thought, you see that? That's really happened. They used Title I. Teachers came on Saturday. Now they were paid. They didn't have to come. North area, working on it. We did have a few teachers come, but South area, that's something they really wanted and they bought. And I can listen to it in the classroom when I hear kids, instead of just saying, you need to go see the counselor. They can take a second, refocus the kid, so it's actually working. Fingers are crossed. Daily supervised in-school suspension, this just started. And I think I know it's already a help, because some kids just need a cool off period before they do something silly. And they also, sometimes there's so many things going on with an administrator there. They have intakes meetings, parents coming in, kids getting in trouble, teachers that they need to deal with. There's all kind of things going on, and sometimes they can't stop and take care of that situation right then. So the kids are able to go in there and actually keep working on their schoolwork. They have laptops in there, so they're working on their schoolwork, and then the administrator can meet with them and talk with them. Obviously, if they need the SRO or they need that, then they don't go in there, the SRO comes and gets them. But we're trying to use this in place of just being suspended out all the time. Because sometimes it's really silly, and sometimes they're kids and they don't know how to cope. And so they just blow up, and then they say sorry. They're like, I'm really sorry, Miss B. I'm like, I know, baby. But, so hopefully this will be a way to keep kids in school without just suspending everybody out.
How are you supervising that?
There's an IA in there. Lunch. Believe it or not, the North and the South, teachers didn't have a 30-minute free lunch. I know that. But they did get their time back up during the day, so it wasn't like they missed everything. But I believe that teachers need that. You need 30 minutes to do whatever you need to do without anybody talking to you in the middle of the day. So teachers get 30 minutes free lunch with nobody talking to them. The kids were complaining about lunch. Kids complain about lunch even when I was at Stowe. But they get cookies now, juice, water, chips. They get to order that in the morning time when they come in. And during lunch, the kids get 15 minutes to eat. If they want to take longer, they can sit there and eat the whole 30 minutes. Or they can spend the last 15 minutes going outside, playing basketball, football, socializing, walking around the track, or just sitting down, whatever they choose to do. It gets them outside, gets them different scenery, and it makes them feel like,
Not jail.
yes, you're right, not jail. And the kids say, wow, this feels like a real school, Miss B. So,
Can I ask what football means?
oh, not real football. Just throwing a football around, and they play touch. They play
Do
touch.
you just have teachers rotating out there? Do you put the SRO out there? Like, who's watching?
SRO, admin, guidance counselor, those people out there. IAs.
The South area, when I was outside, like probably a year ago, that whole pavement area was like,
Yeah.
Basketball hoop
you
was
could
a little long.
trip
Yeah.
like cracks and.
We're working on that. We're working on that.
Miss Ann over there? No, she'll be
We're working on it. But yes, there are some things that we're working on. Actually,
She knew to duck out.
She knew to duck out about now?
I've actually spoken to a couple of companies to get some things donated. I don't know where we are. When I told them what I wanted, they were like, that's a lot of money. I said, well, how about just one? So I'm working, because
What are
I
you
think they
looking
need
for to
another
get
basketball
donated?
areas. Then there's bleachers out there now for kids to actually sit. And North has, obviously they have, it was a real school. So they have a real outside. And South, they don't, but we're getting there. They will.
What do you need at the south? You need that
Basketball hoop,
paved,
picnic
do you need a
benches.
basketball hoop?
Flat ground. No, it's like, it's got the roots through the thing.
Yeah, it's
She's
bad.
right, she's limited resources, but that's what it is. Basketball hoops at like 8.5 feet, it's sideways, rusted, right? Kids still play.
Oh,
But the-
absolutely. We push the
bouncing
court,
it
we
off the
push it
roof.
down, they pull it up, and pull it back up, and they're ready to go. Oh yeah, the kids have no problem. The kids said, if we don't, because I said, I'm gonna buy you another football game and I'm gonna bring it in on Monday. And their kid's like, okay. So I did, and the kid goes, how about you just let us use our cell phone for the last 15 minutes? I'm like, no. We're supposed to be out here like exercising, not being on our phones. Okay. The next part is, let me make sure I get it right. It's climate and culture and parent and guardian involvement. This is something that is a work in progress. I'm not gonna lie. But we are doing something with all of them. And I'm really liking what we're doing. Building parental relationships. South has been to every single home himself, probably minus, I'll say, 15, because they said, don't you dare come to my door. But he has been there himself. Hey, how's it going? How can I help you? North area, they're going out there as well. And so we are doing that. They are making home visits, trying to touch base, trying to really meet parents' needs. And just so you know, I never said anything that to him. I had a meeting with him. He goes, by the way, I went to everybody's house so far today except 4. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I've been out. And he has notes, everything written up that he's
He told me that
talking
that
with
was
them now.
his number one way he can know a kid, learn a kid, be a kid, and see him, is by going there. And when he sat down, I wanted to give props to him, but that he's just phenomenal. Like, even Ms. Deskowitz was just saying the same thing. Like, I've never sat with somebody that was that committed at that location like that, so that was amazing.
He was my dean at Stone, and he did that at Stone without any, that's what I loved about him, is I never said, how about this? He came to me and said, how about this?
He came out, I think, Booker T in Miami,
Yes.
doing the same thing down there. He's just
Absolutely.
committed.
He's worked at high-performing schools, low-performing schools. Family night. Both places have had 2 different family nights where they fed parents, talked about, what can you do to help your kid, and what are we doing?
That's a new, brand new thing, yes?
Yes, but they've had 2. They've already had 2, and it was, the first one they had 2 parents. It was so sad. It was so, they did so much work. He decorated the room. There was 2 parents, and he's like, I did everything. I'm like, I know. He was really sad, but it's a process. He says, next time maybe we'll have steak and shrimp and they'll come. So we're gonna work to get people there. Building school relationships, I have to say, I appreciate this a lot. I know, just by being a principal, you have no time at all. It was absolutely the hardest job I ever had in my life. So the fact that we have honor roll celebrations and admin from schools, actually, I didn't say, I didn't drive them crazy, send them 5. I said, hey, we're doing this. If you'd like to come, that would be great. Every single one of them sent a representative, or if they didn't send themselves. And actually, was there. The kids received a treat. It was a ceremony. They had a certificate, and it's for honor roll, and the kids get student of the week.
Are you saying somebody from each of their homeschools came to visit them at, are you serious?
Make them
Honestly,
feel
and it
loved,
was,
other things that you can do.
and
Whose
the
idea
kids'
was that?
eyes.
Whose idea was that?
CJ. It was CJ. And the kids' eyes were like, I thought you forgot about me.
Yeah.
And Miss Baez was one of the deans there, and she goes, I would never forget about you. I'm just waiting for you to come back. When are you coming back? So it was so fabulous. And the kid goes, I didn't think I was gonna make it, but I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make it.
So is that happening at both the North
Yes.
South? Okay, good.
It is, everything that here is doing it both.
Okay.
Some are doing it a little better, but we're doing it at both, and everything's a work in progress. Some things North's doing better than South, so it's just, you have different personalities
Right.
and different teachers. Building district relationships, I've already discussed that. You know, we've had the curriculum leaders coming here to do art with the kids, paint, all kind of stuff, workshop. They're building a birdhouse. It's amazing. They bring it in already built. The kids had to write it out. They had to do math. It was amazing. A little scary, but they had to do math. And the kids actually said, if you get the dimensions right, then we're going to put this together. So whatever the kids want to do, we're trying to do. Trying to get them wanting, you know, to just focus, homeschool. This is where I want to be. I want to be there. I want to be back with my friends, with my teachers, with my cohort, and keep their mind on that. We are going to be discussing, well, she's going to be later on, changes to policy 5610, because that's going to be important to change earn return, the conduct stipulation agreement. So we are going to talk more about that. So I just want to put that on there so you know that we're not forgetting about that. The next slide is, this is a draft earn return conduct stipulation agreement. There's two separate ones. There's a felony and then a placement. And it's not just a placement for the ALC. It could be a placement if they decide to go somewhere else. We wanted it so if a kid said, I don't want to go here, they still had a stipulation to follow. You did receive a copy of both of those. We have something that we sort of follow now, but I think it's important that it's put in writing, and it's something that we're doing with fidelity, because these kids deserve it, period, the end. I don't care what they do, they still deserve this. We need to try to meet their needs in every way possible. Kids that commit level 1, 2, or 3, this is what we're gonna follow. If it's a 4 or 5, if you bring drugs, or you bring a weapon, or you do something, this is nil and void. But this is for our kids that can't control themselves, for lack of better words. So if a kid gets in trouble, they're gonna have a warning. It's gonna be a conference with the ALC administrator. They're gonna call them. The second, they're gonna be suspended 1 to 3 days. Parents can actually come in and speak with the ALC administrator to the best of their ability. We do have a few parents that Mr. Shijek said, I've called 7 times. So the next is suspension 3 to 5 days, and during this time they're going to go through the MTSS process, IPST, review their IEP, go over their 504, and during that time they're going to look at their BIP, their behavior intervention plan, change it. Does it need to be revised? Where are we? What do we need to do? And they're going to have another meeting with the parent to re-entry and say, this is what we need to do for you to be successful. Or did we miss something? Is there something we're not meeting your needs? What can we do to meet your needs better? And then the 4th stage is suspension 3 to 5 days. That's team conference with the director of the alternative sites or designee. I'm going to try to be at every single one if I can. And parent, student, and homeschool administrator / designee. Doesn't have to be the principal or the assistant principal, some representative from that school, so that they know we're in it together. We didn't forget about you. You didn't fall through the cracks. We're still fighting for you. It's not over. And at that time, if they have a earn return and they get to here, they're going to lose their earn return. And then they would just write out their stipulation, whatever time. And then next would be suspension up to 10 days, obviously pending Dr. Mullen's approval and the board's approval.
Are these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are these like correlating with our discipline plan, or is this just first offense, second offense? What are we looking at? Because like number 3, number 4 is the same amount of suspension. Obviously the right-hand side is different, but what is this?
Well, we're still, to answer, I'm going to try to answer your question.
Okay.
We're still going to follow the discipline plan. If it says if you do this, we're going to do this. And usually it's in these days, but, and if they're getting here, it should be 3 to 5 days. And it should be, up on the levels, willful disobedience or misconduct, saying inappropriate things. So that automatically leads to that if those, level 3s are up there for suspension 3 to 5 days. But if not,
level
we could
1,
just
2, and 3, that's from our discipline plan, right?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I'll just tell you, when I bring an expulsion down to Dr. Mullins and we review what's happened at the ALC, sometimes they're there very briefly and then they do a level 4 and 5 offense, and then we go right to an expulsion because level 4 and 5 is an expellable offense. And this is our last chance school. Sometimes students will have a series, and I mean 20 referrals for willful misconduct, willful disobedience or misconduct or any of those other offenses, and it's just piled on and there is no corrective action. So we wanted to, one of the biggest complaints we heard from the teachers was, why do we even have a stipulation agreement? We don't follow it. They come in here, they break all the rules they want, and they just stay. So we wanted to match giving a plan that we felt was enforceable along with the support that we thought students needed. So this is kind of like if you take that STIP agreement and kind of lay it over our discipline plan, this is our MTSS process of working with students through their conduct issues at the ALC so that it doesn't go on forever, so that we can say to teachers, we hear you, but here are the supportive steps we also have to put in place for a student who needs it. But at the end of the day, there's an end in sight. If you keep breaking the same rules and all of the support we put in place don't work, we'll be bringing them to Dr. Mullins for expulsion.
How do you differentiate between step 3 response and step 4 response? Like, if the offense is something that would get them 3 to 5 days suspension, how do you determine which route you go?
Well, if they had a parent conference with the ALC, we're automatically, even before they even get in trouble, we're already starting the MTSS/IPST, depending on their EC, starting that process. So it may not go perfect, but we want to make sure that we're doing all of these things and really making sure kids are not just falling through the cracks. And we're not just kicking kids out aimlessly, and we shouldn't give up on kids. I mean, I was this kid. So no one gave up on me, I don't want to give up on these kids. The only difference between the 2 different stipulations that you see is that a felony stip, they go and they're there until either the felony moves to a misdemeanor or they're off probation. So they're at the ALC till then.
Yeah, previous to this, whenever we had a felony student placed at the ALC, they didn't come with an agreement. And so in order to get them onto a stipulation agreement, they literally had to commit an expellable offense while they were at the ALC because there wasn't that mechanism there. So this then gets them on a STIP agreement the minute they walk through the door.
This is specifically for, and the one that goes with it, this is specifically for students who commit an offense outside of school.
Correct.
But we have to place them in the ALC because of.
Yeah, we don't place all of our felony students in the ALC. Dr. Sullivan and Lena Weibel, looks through each of them and kind of goes, this one we want to move forward and this one we want to place at the homeschool, and then we work in cooperation with that. So it's not a carte blanche. But yeah, for the students who commit certain felonies, they go to
violent in nature.
Yeah, they go to the ALC and we put them on a STIP agreement now. That STIP agreement. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, topic, STAR students, STAR program. And it was first implemented in 2017-2018 for a partial year. Last year was its first year. It's staffed by 2 full-time BCSO employees, and the program includes daily instruction and tutoring. What happens is Monday through Thursday, they meet 1st and 5th period. First period is PT with the lieutenant, and then 5th period is work. They need to get individual help with their curriculum, whatever they're working on, whatever they need help. And then Friday, what happens is they have them all day, and it's when kids get rewards for doing what they're supposed to do, and they have PT, and they have to meet with the curriculum, the teacher that's there to help them stay caught up. And also on the STAR students that go back to their home school, the SROs do meet with them on Wednesday. It's about once a month, because I went and met with every single STAR student at all their home schools to find out, are we meeting your needs? What can we do better? What do you want to see? What do you wish was different? Can't change if I don't know. So I went and talked to all of them. So since the program, there's 38. We have added 8 more since this presentation was put together. So just keep that in mind. 26 are currently in the program, and there's all these stats are just showing you how our kids are really doing in the program and then when they go back home. So 26% were removed due to behavior or lack of participation. They don't take the kids, the worst kids. They take the kids that want to be in there. Kids have to say they want to be in there. If the kids don't follow rules, they get kicked out. They get 3 strikes, done.
Do they stay in this program after they're back at their home school? Is that what?
Yes, ma'am, and they meet them one Wednesday a month.
The students that you talked to that are back at their home schools, did they find anything beneficial about this program?
Students said that they like having someone to talk to. It's very nice to be able to have someone, if they need help, they can pick up the phone, they have their personal phone numbers, they can call them. I asked them, did it help them at the ALC to make it through, and they said it was fun. It made ALC fun. And I asked them, would they have still been successful without that program? The majority of them said yes, some said no. But the majority, I think only, I actually have it written down. I want to say 2 or 3 kids said no, they needed that, someone poking the bear and saying, get your butt in order. But the majority of the kids said no, but it was nice to have someone to be there when I needed them. And of course the kids said, it's nice they pull me out on Wednesdays. I'm trying to get them out of a math class. They won't pull me. So it's just, but they said it's nice to see a friendly face come see them on the Wednesdays.
Someone that
One
cares
Wednesday
about
a
them
month.
and has identified them. Did you get any feel or feedback of what we could do to improve the quality of time?
I think that's a different part of the presentation. I think that's a different subject.
Okay.
And
Yes.
this is run by the sheriff's office.
There's things that we can do to make that program better, to make it meet more kids' needs, to have 2 people having just this amount of kids.
That's a lot of resources is what I'm saying. I don't know what our contribution is
Oh,
to it.
100%, sorry.
I was actually waiting for that, thank you.
100% of
We were-
both officers.
We were getting there.
Sorry,
Do
it's
we
my
have
time
any-
is,
No,
just
I-
a response. I appreciate it.
Do we have any input on what those officers are doing, or is it completely directed by the sheriff's office?
They are open to the collaboration.
Okay.
Okay.
I just think we should utilize them. If we've got 2 high-dollar employees there, we should be utilizing them to the maximum of our ability.
Especially when having someone to talk to that need can be met by volunteers, by mentors, by people who are at the home school.
I recruited my husband, and he said he would absolutely wrangle Palm Bay police and put them out on the STAR students.
I was just going to ask you about a mentor program at
Oh,
both
that's
schools.
another
Like,
can
is
of
that-
worms. I tried so hard at Stone to get a full mentoring program there, and
But
it
the
was
social workers
semi-successful.
could lead that.
Absolutely.
Once you have one in the south. But in the north, I would think they could set up a mentoring program. And
Absolutely.
you can get all the law enforcement professionals to be the mentors.
Yep.
But in
You're welcome for that.
in the north also, isn't there another employee that's supposed to be like a sort of an ex-teacher, something?
There's an SRO,
Yep.
and then there is another, I don't want to say SRO, but they're just in charge of the STAR program.
Yeah, there's 2 of
They're
them.
the lieutenant specialist. And then there is another person that's hired from the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, and they are a teacher. So they actually, I believe it's a retired teacher, or she has teaching background. At least that's what she told me. And so she's helping with the kids with their curriculum. But the SRO actually just helps with the stuff on the campus, except on Wednesdays. The one Wednesday a month, that SRO plus the lieutenant, they go to the schools, and then they send another police officer just to supervise until they get back.
Is the SRO up there the sheriff's office also?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that is in county territory, the location?
Okay. So .08 moved out of state, were unable to participate, and right now we have 10 STAR students enrolled at the ALC. Since this, I believe we have 3 more that are active there right now as a STAR student. Since this has been going on, 1 student earned their GED, 3 students have dropped out of school without receiving a diploma. And I wanted to look to see, is this really helping with the referrals and are kids behaving? 20 of the STAR students, and that was out of the 38, received referrals while attending ALC, and 12 of the STAR students received referrals when they returned to their home school. So they were still getting in trouble. 6 STAR students have returned to the ALC. And 65% of the STAR students are currently passing all their classes.
So if the 6 STAR students that have returned to the ALC, did they go back into the STAR program?
Oh, no.
Okay,
Everything's
just
checked.
checking.
Well, okay, that's not true. 1 is back.
Okay.
We just got them back in the STAR program. But the other 5, no ma'am. I don't know if it will happen, but, because we currently have 3 more that were there previously back. So it's a process.
Right. What's the capacity? Has the sheriff's department shared what the capacity is for this?
I've met with them numerous times, and their thought is that they still have to be able to meet the kids' needs there and to be able to meet their needs when they get back to school. So they have to be able to, on Wednesday, get to all the kids. So the way they're working it is they're supposed to have 15 kids every year. They're supposed to add 15 kids. But if we did have a different mentoring process afterwards, they could have more kids.
Kids in this school. Yeah.
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
ALC. Thank you.
Ooh, I need my glasses for this. This is a 2-year comparison of where we were, where we are in regards to discipline. It's drugs, fighting, major fighting, battery, alcohol, other major offense, physical attack, threat and intimidation, and then fighting. I want to clarify this because you see fighting, you're like, oh my gosh, that number's ginormous. It is big, but fighting could be just the regular 005 is I pushed you, you pushed me, and it wasn't it wasn't a major offense where buses were late, kids were late to class, kids were hurt, teachers were hurt. It's just not assessor code. Police doesn't get involved. Yes, sir.
Is the 18-19 May numbers and 19-20 January numbers? Okay,
Yes.
just want to make sure.
Is this is things that they committed at the ALC, or this is what got them to the ALC?
Got them to the ALC.
Right. This is the discipline code of the district, and then this is kids that this happened to. They were sent to the ALC.
So 2019, 2020, up until January, 151 kids had a drug violation in our entire district, and 101 of them went to ALC.
Yes, ma'am. And when we looking for a placement, kids can go to different places. Some kids choose,
Yeah, online, virtual,
Right.
whatever. Yeah, we understand.
What is ALC?
Alcohol.
Oh, sorry. Too many letters.
And so as you can see, we're pretty close to last year and this year. The only difference where there's a rise is battery and fighting.
Yeah. We are already in February at our last year's May numbers.
So battery and, yeah.
Exceeding.
Yeah.
So
Battery
the
and
numbers
fighting.
on the right are from the full year, and the numbers on the left are just
Correct.
through
Because this is where we're battery for last year for the ALC, and then we have 15 here. It was 26 for all year. But it's also how people are coding things too.
What is
Well, it's
So-
because of the Palm Bay.
Other
What happened in
major
Palm Bay? All at one time.
You said offense, but I-
PHA, physical.
Physical
So
attack.
what are the,
PHA.
physical attack. One of the things that we really wanted to make sure you saw was above and beyond everything else, drugs is our number one issue in terms of the groups of kids that end up going to the ALC. And so we're going to be talking more about kind of next steps. We're going to be focusing a little bit more on those students.
But
And
am
there
I
is a
reading
di-
that right, that it looks like to date that it's better? Are we far enough into the year to say that?
I would say
Not
second
bad.
semester holds
Yes.
a lot.
Second semester was a lot larger last year.
Yeah, I wouldn't get overly optimistic right now.
Because I ran them by that way, and second semester was much higher than
Okay.
first
So a
semester,
bubble.
by far. But what I will say that I didn't believe it if I wouldn't see it with my own 2 eyes, and I know Dr. Sullivan can absolutely, attest to this, that there's a difference between one side of the world and the other side of the world. One side of the world is getting in trouble for drugs, not that the other side isn't, and the other side is getting in trouble for fighting. That's where most of the kids that are going to the North Central ALC, it is for fighting, and the other is for drugs. Not that they both have the, but it's the majority. When you
Really?
see them, yes.
So there's more drugs in the South End? Is that
Yes.
what
I'm not saying there's more, I'm just saying that's where, when we look at the numbers.
Offenses going to the ALC. We can't extrapolate that out to any theory, but
I
for
think you
offenses
kinda
going to
can.
the South ALC.
you're-
Is that
Kids are doing it.
just
it's
this year, or is
probably
that
not probably.
typical?
Just what I've seen this year. I mean, I've heard that it's, but I didn't look at the rest to see if that's,
Population basis, 2-3 times.
I mean, Dr. Sullivan could probably answer
Population
that
basis
better.
over in
Last
Palm
year was
Bay
the
is
same,
2-3 times what
basically.
population times Merritt Island. It's population basis 2-3 times the size. Like her Palm Bay is massive, Melbourne's
Right.
massive compared to others. So that might be
Right, Palm Bay is the
part of
biggest
the
city in the
numbers,
garden.
but not.
Okay. The 2018-29 statistics, 47 students were expelled and 23 were expelled for drugs. Now, I ran that a couple different ways, and because sometimes when kids get in trouble at the ALC and they're expelled because they don't follow the stipulation conduct, they get expelled for what they were sent there for. So I was trying to go through that, and that's why right now for the 2019-2020, right now we currently have 19 expelled and 13 are under review. That's where we are. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Chris to talk about the next steps. Yay!
I will, okay, listen, Misty rallied. That was good rallying. Just so that you know where we're going. First off, I just want to put into context everything that Misty just said. She started in July. So that was 5 months worth of work. And the fact is, what you don't know is she is spending probably at least half of her time working with Riverdale and Fieldston and working on some improvements with that relationship and with those programs. And so this is half of her time. So publicly, I just want to thank Misty and thank her for the amazing job that she has done. Our next steps, we are working on policy 5610. It is going to kind of talk a little bit more about earned return. I think Dr. Sullivan and her team have done a really good job saying to principals, we have one standard in the district, not, how many secondary schools do we have?
28.
Not 28. But we went ahead and put some things into writing and said these things shall get earned return, these things won't ever get earned return, and for all the things that fall in the middle, Dr. Sullivan and Lita Weibelt will take a look at those and judge them for what they are. But the other thing that was missing from 5610 that's in Neola is the language about expulsion hearings. And so we're putting that language into our policy. And we want to put some language into our policy to account for students who, a week before their STIP agreement ends, commits an expellable offense at the ALC. Because right now what our language says is, you go back to your home school in a week, even though you just brought drugs to the ALC. So we want to close that little loophole, because that's happened a couple of times. That language is probably going to be, I'm going to say we'll probably have it at cabinet in about 2 weeks, so you guys should be seeing it in 3 or 4 weeks. We're going to continue to use the NAEC standards. We haven't been able to dive real deep in because we've been like putting out fires and going, oh, here's a culture problem, let's fix that. Oh, let's fix that. And it was only later that we stepped back and went, what are the standards? How are we meeting them? So we're going to be a little bit more deliberate and purposeful in looking at the standards and figuring out what our next steps are in terms of meeting the standards for what an alternative program should be. Of course, once we get 5610, we're going to look at revising the discipline plan and the code of student conduct as appropriate. Misty is creating an ALC teacher survey so that we can survey them, every year and figure out where they're at in terms of above and beyond what the Insight survey gives, because the ALCs are kind of a different place to work, and you've got to want to work there. I mean, you've got to want to work there. We are going to look at the return on investment for all of the programs. So part of the reason we gave you some statistics was because we're going to start pulling those together and say what exactly is our return on investment, the money that we're putting into things, and the output that we're getting. When we have that information, we'll be presenting it to Dr. Mullins and the cabinet, and we can take a look at what the next steps are in terms of taking away or adding programs to the ALC. We are evaluating our staffing plan and looking for creative solutions. So one of the things that I know for a fact is that money doesn't grow on trees, and board members don't have the trees in their backyard. So we're looking at how we do what we do and how we can make sure that we can add IAs as we needed based on the growing population and declining population. And some other things that we know are needed at the ALC that we're not going to just ask for. We're going to look at a creative way to figure out how to use what we have and across our whole division in order to make sure that the ALCs are staffed in a way that's appropriate. Hit the button. But we're exploring. Don't hand me your water.
I'm not. You don't have much.
We're exploring a focused drug program. And since Misty has started talking to people, one of the biggest connections that we've had is sitting on drug court. And like she said, she goes every Friday in the afternoon. And she didn't tell you a whole lot about it, but I think it's really important to know that one of the first things that she put into place is, she said to me, Chris, some of these kids are going to court and they're not telling the judge the truth. Thank you. And I'm sitting looking at, their attendance, and they're out 20 days, but they're saying they're there all day. They're saying they're not getting in trouble, and they have 10 referrals. And so she said, we've got to do something because the judge is thinking they're telling the truth. So she took one of our release of information forms, and before the judge hears any case, she has them sign the release of information forms. So Misty's able to sit there and work with the judge on what's really happening with the student in school, and no more lies. But the other thing the judge has been able to do is say, I'm about to put down this sentence. Will this work in your schools? And Misty's been able to say, no, there's no way the schools can manage that, but we can manage this. So it's been a really great partnership. The other thing is that the judge said, if you put a plan together, we will help you. That comment right there is worth its weight in gold because they have resources that we don't have. So one of the things, we're looking at mandatory drug and alcohol awareness classes for students who have drug dependency issues. We are looking for a specific group of peer group counseling for our students with drug issues, family counseling. We're looking at more drug screenings, and we want to package this in a way, and we're not sure what it's going to look like. We're not sure if we're going to say we want to offer this at the ALC. We're not sure if we want to say we want to offer this at night. We want to sure if we want to offer it on Saturdays. We're not sure if we want to offer it at a center school. We're not sure. But what we do know is that since starting to investigate this, and we've been investigating it for probably 6 weeks, partners have come out of the woodwork to say, we've been waiting for the district to do this. Here we are to help you, both with offers of free counseling, offers of money, offers of just partnership. So this is one of our next steps, and this is probably one of those things that we think is going to have a big impact on the district, one of the bigger impacts that we can have on the district.
And since some of these people the students who are going to court are not ALC students, they're just other district, is this something that you're seeing would have an impact outside?
Yes, and that's where we're going with Recovery High School. With the idea of Recovery High School, this is, just so that you know, by next steps, some of these things are 3 years down the road. So that's where we're going with, we're exploring Recovery High School. Misty went to a video presentation. And I'll be frank, I got the email and went, I don't have time for that. Misty, you go to that. And she said, that was the best thing I've seen in a really long time. At the same time, I got a phone call from the Brevard Health Alliance. Not the Brevard Health Alliance. Space Coast Health Alliance, thank you. And they called up and said, did you see the video on Recovery High School? If you didn't, I want to make sure you see it. We want to partner with you on that. So when outside agencies are immediately calling us saying we want to partner with you, it's a sign that something good is happening. So So we want to explore it. These are the statistics that we know, that over 300,000 kids enter drug and alcohol rehab programs every year. Traditional schools are not equipped to deal with this. And most schools, when they leave school for a drug and alcohol problem, they relapse. 8 out of 10 relapse within a year. This is reported by students. We don't really get Brevard statistics on drug and alcohol use in our students, because when we put out our surveys, ours is a permission survey, meaning that instead of saying to our parents, we're going to give you the survey and you have to opt out of it, we say you need to opt into it. So most districts give that survey, most Florida districts, in fact, every Florida district but Brevard gives that survey on an opt-out basis, so they have better statistics than we do in our county. But there's no reason to believe our district is any better or worse than any other district as far as these statistics
Is that
go.
statewide district numbers right there, Ben?
These are national numbers. 46% of all high school students are currently using some kind of addictive substance. And to your point, one of the things that Misty has noticed is we have some kids that we don't see in our dean's office that are using some pretty heavy-duty drugs.
Just not getting in trouble.
They're just not getting in trouble.
Or they're not
they're,
putting on campus.
they're probably not getting in trouble. They probably have attendance problems. They are probably academically unsuccessful. And they're going through the court system. So already we know they're significantly at risk. However,
Ms. Moore, can I
Yeah.
clarify real quick? The survey you referenced, is that the Florida Risk Youth Survey?
that is the Florida Risk Youth Survey. Correct.
Not to be confused, because there was some confusion with our
Yes.
students, not to be confused with the Youth Truth Survey that our students must opt out of, that we recently administered to our students, that doesn't address explicitly
Yeah. The
this
Florida
type of behavior.
Yeah, the Florida Risk Survey, it asks them a lot of questions that have, in years past, made people uncomfortable. It asks them about their drug use. It asks them about their sexual habits. It asks them a range of different questions about their mental health. And it is what Florida uses to get our statistics for our young people in terms of where the needs are. So while I don't have specific Brevard statistics, I can certainly share with you past statistics from the state, which we, are an average that we can use just on a general basis.
Is Recovery High School, is that an actual individual school? Is that a program within a school? What is this something that, I'm a little confused on what
We're
this
getting
is.
there.
Oh.
But yeah, thank you. Recovery High School is a program. It is, some people use it as a magnet program in their schools. Some people use it as a school within a school. Some people set it up separately. But the whole idea of it is, we know going in that you are an addict. We know going in that you have a drug problem. And when you go in, you are going in to finish high school there. It is not an in and out program. You are going in to finish high school and receive recovery services while you're there. And for students who commit expellable offenses there, they won't tolerate violence, they won't tolerate, weapons, but as a recovering addict, if you bring drugs or alcohol, that's part of their program, and they understand and they work with you because that's what they're trying to fix. Right now, there's a couple of different districts looking at adding a recovery high school-like program in the state of Florida. There is
Florida
one,
is having one next year
the Orange County. Orange County is adding one
As a standalone school or
as a
program?
standalone school.
and there's
Does
one in
anyone do it like as a, I don't want to call it a CTE program, but like our programs are like embedded in a couple schools that we could actually.
It's a standalone school, and they usually start with between 15 and 20 kids, and then they build. So it's not a first offense. It's, kids been caught another time with drugs, or their family says there's drugs in the house and we don't know what to do anymore. So it can be that way, or the court, or through the court system. But it starts very small. Yes, ma'am.
Some of them look like a storefront. Some of them look like a school.
Some are
There is
churches.
some are in churches. There is one in Jacksonville
Yes.
that we're going to go visit in March. We've had a hard time setting it up just based on her schedule, my schedule, and their schedule. So we're not willing to define it, and again, we're looking at 2 or 3 years out just because of the process of figuring out
How is it funded?
how to put this together.
How's Orange County funding it?
I can just say I can imagine.
Two different ways. One is the school, and half is the school district, and the other half is nonprofit.
So there's a nonprofit funding like that started just to support it?
Does that go counter against our inclusionary models where we're trying to work with the kids in the environments that they're in? Will they be able to play sports in that high school? Like what they will, they won't?
I'm going.
At this
day, I will just say we haven't explored enough to
Right.
answer detailed questions. I don't want to go on record as saying anything that I can't deliver on.
And does it exist? And the reason is that I've noticed that in some of the highest behavioral issues that I've had, if you can find that why they're at that school, then it's more, and sometimes when you put them into somewhere where they don't have those outlets, like you're doing with the basketball, with all of those
Right.
pieces. And I've always just kind of been thinking in my back of my mind with our ALCs, are they allowed to compete in some of the other competitions that we have? Brain bowls, all this, I know that that's a far stretch, but would we allow them to do innovation games? Would we allow them to do those kind of things? And if we don't get there around our heads, then we're more punitive than we are rehabilitative.
Well, right now we don't have a rehabilitative model. So let me be just on the line. The ALCs are a last chance school. They are not a rehab
And a
school. That
student
is-
dealing with substance abuse is probably going to already have lost the opportunity to participate in our athletic programs and many other things.
It's just a lot of it's mental health, and I know that some of that can be attributed to having I'm telling you from personal experience, having that opportunity to do something inside the school has helped facilitate them. So when they see that opportunity where they're at, then they may rehab faster. But that's an off-site conversation.
Yeah, and so what I can tell you for sure, there are experts in drug addiction, and I'm not one of them. But there are, and they have already reached out to us to say, we want to partner and talk to you about this. So you asked about funding. Students, of course, will carry their FTE with them. Some of the counseling services that would be embedded would be Medicaid funded, and then outside partner agencies would be the next step.
Students that had addictive substance abuses in my classrooms were some of the most intelligent individuals I ever had. And one of the reasons is they were meddling with the next level, and closing that opportunity off was just part of where I was thinking. That's all.
Yeah. What we want to stop is the cycle of use, abuse, and then back again.
Okay.
We would like to have something in place to say we are really making a difference for our students who are drug addicted.
Sorry to get there.
I think after you guys go, and we can't wait to see what you learn and find out.
Yeah. So again, this is just more about exploring Recovery High School. We have a 3-minute video just as an intro, but we're going to send you a 45-minute video, the one that Misty went and saw.
Okay.
Because I didn't, we could have tacked it on, but we thought no. So anyway, hopefully it'll work.
I don't know, see, doing it back there, or is it over here?
It's over here now.
Is it on there now?
And you have to say,
Okay.
These opioids become an epidemic in our country.
How many of you have seen the news?
In a CDC survey published this year, 1 in 6 students said they had taken prescription painkillers.
Some of me, probably drink, but drink, probably do coke, definitely smoking crack. But I smoke crack, probably shooting coke. If I shoot coke, I'm stuck in these hands. If I'm stuck in these hands, I'm going to want to suck in the movies.
And how long will it take to get there?
A week.
Anyway, how are ya? Mr. I come to Recovery School because I'm an educator. And I started seeing the faces of my students change. The thing is that's so hard about addiction, Sean. When you were in the thick of it 2 weeks ago, you didn't think it was that bad. The thing I love about math is that it's not emotional. A lot of them have more than just substance abuse issues, they have family issues, mental health issues. I've heard since I started this school that if they're relapsing, I need to kick them out, I need to clean house, I have to, it just makes sense to me. Addiction means that you're sick, and we keep treating them like they're bad. I love you so much, honey.
I'm grateful I'm still breathing because there are times when I have stopped. I'm grateful people love me because I don't think I deserve it.
I don't know much people besides my school, my mom. Addiction does that to you.
I'm grateful for supportive friends because they left me out when I came.
young people on the face of this earth. These children don't run away from the fire, they run towards it.
Sold.
So I think the 45-minute version will give you more information about what the program is and how it runs and the pieces, parts. We get in trouble a lot because we start exploring different options and everybody goes, wait, what are you doing? But to find out about stuff, you gotta explore it a little. So we're digging deep into both of these things because drugs are our #1 problem at the ALCs, period, the end. And so we would like to start getting that at the root instead of at the end. It just doesn't make any sense to us. So that being said, what questions do you have about the ALCs and what we've done and where we're going?
Can I just say I really appreciate you looking into this because mental health and drugs are very different and you treat them very differently. And so I'm excited. This may not happen tomorrow, but I'm glad that we're really looking at what can we do to help these students.
Yeah. Thank you. You good? All right, sorry, I didn't mean to make you upset.
No. I think.
Now, if the 45-minute video
You're gonna
is
need
more of
tissues.
that, we need to be in the private room.
We're gonna need tissues because it
With a
interviews
box
kids
of
and actually
tissues.
they talk about where they were, how they got there, it talks their family, really how, their kids almost died, now they're graduating. I mean, there was not a dry eye and I came and I told her, I really love this. She's like, oh no.
We have so many organizations in our community that are, working for, against the opioid crisis.
Mhm.
I feel like it's a great time to explore something like this, especially with fund. We can't add one more thing to our funding plate, but there might be the right time to pull
Absolutely.
the community together and
Yeah.
just be the hub. So.
And it's not even a matter of pulling them together. They are
They're
calling
here.
us. If there's one thing I have learned from Dr. Mullins, it's better be cost neutral. So
I hope you've learned more than that.
I promise. But it's one of those things where there are enough people in our community that are interested in this. This is impacting across our entire community that I think people are behind, not just us exploring it, but moving towards a solution for our students who are drug and alcohol addicted.
And then just thinking that the potential impact on our LCs as they are now, if we remove a large chunk of students who are going there, who are getting education and counseling that's better suited for them, that we alleviate so many problems at the ALCs,
And I'm really, not to go back to it, but with our drug court, there are kids who are drug addicted out there that are falling through the cracks, and they are at-risk youth, and those are the ones that we go, well, nothing's working. Nothing's working because the only thing that's working is opioids or marijuana, whatever. And so by having that connection with the court system, they would place students if we had some place for them to place. So.
I just want to we gave you, I think, was it even before you? Was it with Dr. Blackburn? We started beating this drum with these ALCs and we were so disappointing to go there and see how it's functioning. And since these two have joined the board, it's just like all 5 of us have been begging, pleading for help and change. Thank you for you and you, because I know when I got the message that said that you were taking this over, I knew you were the right woman for the job. And what you've done in half time in 5 months or whatever the time has been, it's phenomenal. I can't wait to see what more you got.
Thank you.
Next time we come, we won't make you cry.
I can't promise that.
Maybe. I'm gonna put a challenge out there for, since we're liking to challenge each other this year. Run a marathon with 20 bucks. Yeah. I offered to Miss Bland to, talk about mentoring people, because, we don't, whatever we do with the STAR program moving forward in the South End, we don't have it. So we don't have anybody following up with our alternative school students who are coming back into their homeschool setting, and I offered to be guinea pig, just to, do kind of a take. These kids will never qualify for Take Stock of Children. It's just, it doesn't work for them. And so, just, could we have somebody meet with them at lunch in a similar way, once a week or whatever, just somebody they can text or catch up on and ask her to give me one of mine.
I'm going to
assign
find
me.
one.
So, if y'all would like to jump into it.
Why don't I call all the Rotaries, the Kiwanis clubs, to a meeting at the South Area ALC and ask them to buy in to volunteering and mentoring.
Like, what
I mean,
do
I
you
can
need
come
once a week,
mentor.
30 minutes? That's what some of the other
But
schools
why
are doing.
don't,
Is that
why don't you and I work on that? And
Okay.
I will reach out. I know I have all the Rotary presidents. And that is something that a lot of them, my Rotary at Suntree has 7 individuals that volunteer their time to mentor kids from O'Galley to Vieira. I know that the Kiwanis, the Eagles, all those groups, I can pull them together, and I know that we can get that. If that's a true need, and then I would also like to work on getting that back area, the basketball court, and ask them, because there are funding sources. We raise $30,000 for our Great Taste of Suntree, and it goes to 2 organizations. One of them's the Children's Hunger Project that she's on the board for. But we might be able to chunk some of that off and become long-term community partners rather than us just come, which is an amazing idea. But I think that if we did that, we can keep that every year. We can host the meeting, we can do it. That's what I would like to see. I would love to do something like that, and I would love to work with you. Dr. Mullen, is that okay? Okay.
But no, I do realize something like that actually creates more work for somebody, coordinating.
Listen,
Coordinating training.
the kids need it, so
She
I would
definitely- She
absolutely.
definitely love that.
Yeah. Well, I'll be doing it for South since I only have 1 social worker, but I would love to do that. I worked so many hours at Stone to get that, so to get that would just be amazing. My kids deserve that.
Matt, can we pull countywide for that conversation so that we have?
Here's what I would say. I found it very successful when you have them at the school to feel, touch, and see it. So if we can do a county-wide, and us 3 can go to the one at the south, and you 2 could go to the north one and have the same type scenario at both, but allow them to touch and feel the actual kids. Not touch.
We said
actually-
touch today, we said hit.
But actually feel the environment that they're in and see the actual facilities would be huge in allowing them to gain it. And I think once that's done, our connections can be given to you, and you can work that so we're not in the middle, and you have a well to draw from for future use.
Love it.
And some
Yes,
data
so I can
on
do that countywide.
people, and the number of kids who end up coming back.
Oh, I'll start that immediately, like out of course. So start that, who's being mentored, keep a sheet, so I know, is it really helping, what do we need more, and that kind of, because I won't know if it's working unless I do all that. So that would be put in place immediately.
That's up to them. You tell me what you think is best, and then I'll get them there. They're usually business owners that can do their own schedules. There's not a single person there that's not retired or a business owner in my Rotary that can't move their stuff around. So you say what is the most optimal time for you that won't impact, but that they can get the feel of it. We don't want them to have inappropriate behavior be breaking out next to them while they're doing it, but at the same time, they might want to meet a couple of the kids. So that's entirely up to you.
We can't control.
Yeah, we
on
can't
any given
control that.
day.
Look,
Sorry.
I will. You figure that out.
But we're also talking about something like a re-entry mentoring.
Yeah, because I was thinking more after school. I mean, we can do it with the kids, or maybe
Whatever you
have
need.
some kids be there.
You just tell me what you
To
need them
think about
to
it
do, and I will try to facilitate helping your program. Rather than me saying this is what we can do, you just tell me.
Okay.
You have access to those groups. Let me know what they need to do. We'll set expectations, and we'll get them there.
Perfect.
And FYI, before Major Walters left, he shared with me something that I pestered him about. They do have the mobile fingerprinting. If you have groups of people that are interested in becoming volunteers, we have the mobile fingerprinting unit and since we have the extra Patrick and whatever the other.
Yes.
Now one of them can leave to go do that. So we need to, if we have things that we'd like
Good
them to
idea.
show up to, we can do that. Because, people from my area, people from your area don't want to drive to your area to get fingerprinted.
They don't.
So,
Not at all.
That was the hardest piece to get someone mentored, is they had to do these steps to be able to mentor, to meet with a kid one-on-one. That was the most difficult.
So you can have one event one night, have everybody show up, the stragglers have to go do another room, but you can get them all done at one time.
Whatever you guys think will really help.
Sounds fabulous. I'll get you that date and get you some times.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, we have 2 additional items that I would like to bring up for discussion. Mr. Gibbs sent you all, I believe this morning, he sent to you a request for an Attorney General opinion. And I'll give you, I think he kind of explained it, but a little bit of background. So our investment policy is based on state statute. It very clearly defines what our policy must be, and state statute also tells us what our investment priorities must be. And it says that we must prioritize safety of funds, liquidity of funds, and then kind of another rung down return on investment. So when we started discussing the current investment issue, one of the things that I had asked for us to look into is, can we divest from those funds? And Joanne Clark, by the way, has been phenomenal in working with me through all of this and getting me all the information that I need and getting Paul information. And so what we have found is we have kind of 2 issues. So our contractor, our asset management contractor, has indicated that basically they have been investing our dollars according to the state-defined priorities for our investment. So they've been investing based on that safety, liquidity, and return on investment. They are willing to work with us to take into consideration some of the moral, ethical, legal issues that have come up in this process. The challenge is that we may not be able to incorporate that, and we certainly cannot incorporate it as a higher priority than the safety, liquidity, and return on investment, at least according to our understanding of the statute. The other piece of that is that there is another portion of the statute that says if we are going to sell our investments, which was one of the options we looked at, let's get rid of these funds that have questionable backgrounds, can we do that? And Mr. Gibbs has found that there's another section of statute that basically says if we're going to sell, we must either do it to use the funds for their originally intended purpose, which would mean you would liquidate that and use those funds for whatever we need at the district, or we can do it for a more lucrative investment opportunity that matches the 3 priorities from the state. So in discussing it, we felt like really at this point, he's done his research on it. Bless you. There's no case law to support what we're dealing with one way or another. And so Mr. Gibbs's recommendation was for us to seek an opinion from the Attorney General to give us guidance on how we move forward. And so I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read it. Mr. Gibbs, I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
No, it's really, if you want to add that, I don't think it's necessarily prohibited by the statute. It's just it can't take place over that those 3 priorities. And the issue that is likely to recur is if they're not equal, your investment opportunities are not equal, which ones do you take? Can you stick a legal history clause above the return on investment? And that's kind of where we are right now, because the investor said you can pull it out, but you're going to basically lose 0.5% in your return if you do that. So we would be putting a legal history over the return on investment, essentially. So that's where I don't know where the state's going to fall. There's no case law interpreting that statute. There's only one case at all that has been litigated on it, and that was out of Seminole County. The opinion came out last year from the 5th, and it was on whether the county commission or the clerk of the court gets to invest and where they get to choose to invest. So they weren't even fighting over the type of funds to invest in. They were fighting over who has the right to decide what investment to make.
Do we have other investments that are moving that may have a higher ROI than the ones that we have there? Does that make sense to you? So you have a investment makes 6, this makes 5.
I have no idea where all of ours are.
Meaning that if we were to take the money and invest in an already existing investment, because we've got a ton of them in there at different avenues, we can pull history of the ROI on specific investments in other agencies and firms and show that this was higher, that we already have. So that ROI comes out if we do invest it that way. Did I make that clear? Do I need to explain that again? So like if we have 2.
I think the investor would say you just don't know if you can get into that fund
Right.
And there's windows
Sure.
and opportunities to get in and out of
And
funds.
that's what they've indicated. So our policy also dictates what percentage of our funds can be invested in different types of investment opportunities.
Very few of
And
those are maxed
the-
out though.
I'm sorry?
Very few of those are maxed out though.
Correct. However, so the current format of investment for those particular investment accounts, there is no offering in that same area at this point. And so that's the challenge that we're facing. So they have said that if we're going to go that route, our only other option is to take a 0.5% cut on our return on investment.
The same type of funds are not available right now, I guess because of market conditions. So essentially, they said we're gonna have to go with T-bills from the Fed. So, yeah, instead of going with the company.
Do we have what they've said back to us in some kind of format,
Yes.
like all of that? Can I get that?
Yeah, they sent an email.
And then what do we do if we were to pull out and violate statute? Would we then be,
What the consequences are?
yeah,
There's nothing saying, so I can't say one way or the other if DOE would come down and try and penalize us in some way, shape, or form.
and there's no past, there's no past case law on consequences, there's no court law, there's no nothing on
Yeah.
consequences of.
I think it's a really good
Right.
opportunity for an AG. There's nothing out there really guiding
Sure.
any public entities. I don't know if it's a big issue. I don't know if you guys are interested in going down this avenue. Like I said, I don't know. Once you get there, it's like, all right, then you have to start defining how far back are you going to go. Is it going to be forever? Is it going to be 10 years, 5 years?
And you think this is coming up because these are recent sanctions,
Many of the sanctions were 10 years old or older.
Yeah.
that they're still having, or it's just they had a history of sanctions?
They had a history of sanctions.
Okay, but not
Uh,
currently.
And
Well,
that's the,
I don't know that it was a history as in repeated, it was.
No,
But
it was-
previous.
it
it's
was a-
been there, but it's not necessarily that
investigated.
currently they're under sanctions.
correct. And the other thing that I think is important to note is that these companies are all listed as favorable investment opportunities. Like they have not been, they're not flagged to say you shouldn't be like,
There's no marks on their record or anything like that as far as the government's concerned. They're free, they're legal, they're completely legit.
the SEC,
One of the banks
everybody.
is one of the largest in the world.
So, what Mr. Gibbs needs from us is a thumbs up if you all would like for him to move forward on the AG opinion.
And just, there's no timeline. The AG can do what they want with it. I can't say it's going to be 60 days, 90 days. They can flat ignore it if they want, so we may never get.
There's no timeline on the turnaround?
No,
Per
it's all
request?
on up to whether they take it at all. I know under Pam Bondi, she had gradually reduced the number they were issuing. I mean, at the end of her current tenure, they were coming out, you might get a handful a year. So Ashley Moody's still fairly new, so I don't know if she's going to be issuing more.
Sometimes public, awareness drives
And I think the
faster
news
response.
story might help here where there's a media
Yeah.
thing, so it could create a public perception issue.
So
But it's up to the board.
can I ask a process, if we submit this to the AG, we don't hear anything back after a certain amount of time, would the board like to come back to relook at this issue since the AG had not responded to us? What is that, you know what I mean? Like, what is the next step as far as that?
I think we can certainly come back together for a conversation.
Yeah.
I think it would not behoove us to make any changes until we, if we want to set a 90-day timeline to have discussion again, I think that we
What
could
do you
do that.
think would be a fair discussion timeline to come back and discuss?
I can go, I can pull, like, when, I don't know if it's on the actual AG opinion when they submitted, but I can go back and look at some and see if, what has been reasonable. If it's been 3 months to 6 months, 6 to 8 when they get issued. So, and then let you guys know that, but I would say at a minimum 90 days. Probably not gonna get anything back quicker than that.
We come
This
back
is a
to that.
temporary fix, but is there any way when we kind of, I know how investment works with like my personal account, but can we say the next time we need money for a construction project, we pull that first? And so we can actually take it out for one of the reasons it's.
Well, it has a
statutory.
maturity date,
Right, right, that's
so
true. Which
it
is
would-
what?
when it matures, it would be cashed in and it would either be reinvested or it would be utilized for,
Gotcha. So we can't
I-
take those individually.
When's it mature?
I want to say August.
Of this year?
Well, there's different dates for the 4 different accounts. I can forward that to you guys.
I don't remember off the top, but
I mean, if it's all maturing over the next few months, they might just cash them out as they mature. Like,
Mr. Gibbs, do you have all this information in your office?
I don't have, I didn't get the list of the funds and their maturity dates, but I did have the total amount that we would get. There was like a net value
Sure.
and the loss in the rate that we
Is that in our
would take.
investment report?
Yeah, can we, is there a way to get Mr. Gibbs that information, so there's one point of reference to get?
It's fine. I mean, it's not really relevant for so much for the legal
No, but just one
analysis.
point of access that we can
Right,
get
yeah.
to.
I thought the letter was great. Take off the extra quotation marks at the end of the paragraph before, sorry, conclusion.
For
We're
ours.
good.
So I have for an action item for me to make sure that Mr. Gibbs has the list of the funds with their maturity dates and also the letter from PFM with their reasoning for the investment. Is that all you wanted, Matt?
Yeah, just everything in one place so that we can sit down.
And then Mr. Gibbs is going to forward that to the rest of the board.
Yep, that's,
And our new CFO is gonna fix it.
Yeah.
So we gave the thumbs up for him to move forward and come to.
Mr. Gibbs, are you clear on, I
Yeah,
think we have
yeah, I'll,
consensus to move forward?
I'll run back through that letter and make sure there's nothing, if I tweak it, I'll kick it back to everybody again, and if not, if there's nothing to change, then I'll just shoot it to Tallahassee and play the waiting game.
Super. And Ms. Escobar, could you make note that we want to circle back in like 90 days or so on that and have another conversation? Thank you. The second topic of discussion that I wanted to bring forward, I know we've had some conversation about our expulsion process, and Mr. Gibbs and I were able to meet and conference in Dr. Mullins last week to just kind of talk through some options as to how we handle our expulsions. Mr. Gibbs, do you want to give the overview? Do you want me to give the overview, or?
However you want it, you can tag team it if you want.
Okay.
Go by topic.
So we talked about a couple things with regard to the process as a whole, our paperwork, a lot of different aspects. One of the things that he brought forward that I felt like was really promising was the idea of a pre-hearing, where the board chair would meet with the parents and or representative and staff prior to the actual expulsion hearing. And part of the reason for that recommendation is it seems like oftentimes we get into the expulsion hearing itself and the parents and or student representatives don't fully understand our scope of influence in that particular setting. And so, for example, last expulsion hearing, we had someone that really was just concerned about a bully packet, and that was the main focus. And their frustration tends to grow when we say to them, all we can decide today is if your child did it and if the consequences are in line with our policies. And so Mr. Gibbs had mentioned that in his previous district, they did these pre-hearings, and it was an opportunity for parents to have the opportunity to voice their concerns, have someone listen to them, and also work with staff through that process, and to kind of, in a way, coach them as to, okay, this is specifically what's going to be addressed in your actual expulsion hearing. So that they don't get here and get frustrated because we tell them that we can't specifically address the concern that they're bringing forward. So that was one of his recommendations. Another one was looking at how we actually conduct the expulsion hearings. And we went through some options, one involving just having a hearing officer that would handle our expulsions, which I personally think is going to result in additional expenses, as well as kind of us shirking our responsibility in that area. We talked about the potential for just the board chair to do the expulsion hearing and then prepare an order for the rest of the board that you would then approve at a board meeting. That would also require a court reporter, so it would be additional expense. And then we talked about possibly moving to, instead of doing 3 board members, doing all 5 board members actually attending the expulsion hearing. Primarily because we want to make sure that those decisions are pretty final, and we want to make sure that the whole board has the opportunity to weigh in instead of the possibility of a minority of the board weighing in and everyone not having input. And so those were some of the areas that we discussed. Dr. Mullins, I know that you were going to have some conversation with staff. I don't know if you want to weigh in on your thoughts on any of that, or?
Admittedly, I have not had a chance to catch up with staff since Friday.
Okay, so
they're hearing it for the first time.
Okay, so I wanted to throw that out there to you guys because I feel like obviously it's something that we need to discuss. I think the sooner that we can kind of move forward on something, the better, because I think even, I know the last two were uncomfortable for those of us that were here, and I feel like our staff was put in an uncomfortable situation as well. So if we can do some things to mitigate that. We also talked about changing the room a little bit, so we have some division, having tenant Lanzo, Major Lanzo, Lanza, thank you, at the table instead of in the back of the room, and some other things like that I think we're going to work on. Also, some changes to the packet.
I asked Marion's student services director to send me his, and I got those today, so I'll send those to everybody so you can see what they were using. They set up their forms a little different. It actually has boxes, are you disputing the facts? And they have a spot, what facts are you disputing? So I know you guys asked for that on your script when you come in here. You're already going to have that. So when you show up to the final hearing, the board already has in record what exactly they're going to be challenging. If they're only disputing the discipline, do you want a full board hearing, or do you want to set it for after a board meeting on board meeting night where we go off camera, clear the room, parents come in and say, hey, I'm not disputing the facts, I just don't think the discipline's proper, and here's why. And then the board will vote right there instead of voting on expulsion on the regular grouping. You listen to the parent, then you decide what to do right there.
The other thing we discussed on the pre-hearing concept is they would be given all of the documentation at
you exchange exhibits at the pre-hearing. That way they get everything from district, and they have to exchange their exhibits with the district staff, so the district will know exactly what they're going to present and what they want to present.
No. Just like at the last hearing, one of the issues that we had was there had been a bully packet that had been completed once the administrative hearing process was rolling, but the parents hadn't actually, I guess, gotten.
They did.
They did get it prior to the hearing?
They did.
And they also were
Keep
trying
in
to
mind
show
what's
up.
presented isn't always accurate.
They were also trying to show up at the school doing measurements the day before the expulsion, which is just,
And then they get to list out their witnesses as well, so we know. And that was an issue where they had said the witnesses they wanted weren't present at the last set we did, and that was a concern of mine, because then it's on record when they're there and they're recording it, that, hey, I don't have the people I want sitting here, and the district didn't know that they were wanting those people to have them here, so I had to make sure, like, are you wanting us to stop to get those people? And they said they didn't want to push it back.
that gives them the appeal,
So,
like creating it, and then
We,
also,
so I tried to fix that there, and they didn't want us to put it off at that hearing, so we covered it from that side. But this, at a pre-hearing, it would, if they're exchanging witnesses lists, it's like, all right, great, we'll get them subpoenas, they have to serve the subpoenas themselves.
And some of this stuff, a lot of what you guys have been talking about, it is in 5610's Neola language, it just was never in our policy language. So
And
we
it's-
pulled
it's-
some of that into
It's
what
all
we're.
out of statute. That's what a 120 hearing is. 120 says the board chair can issue subpoenas for witnesses. I mean, I don't know, that needs to be explained to parents somewhere, especially if they're going to be representing their own children. It also has on some of the forms that I like where if they're going to use a qualified representative, they need to identify that qualified representative before the final hearing. That way they can be qualified, because there is an actual process in Florida code to qualify somebody to be a representative if the parents aren't going to do it.
and if they're not qualified, meaning they're not a qualified witness for what they're testifying on, you can't just have a
Well,
person
it's not
saying
a-
it's a
So you
great
can't
kid.
have Uncle Joe come and talk about.
You can eliminate those people.
Well, it's more a qualified representative to represent them and present their case, not so much as a witness. So
Well,
Select
credible
an
witness
attorney.
statutes under the quasi judicial follows,
Right.
they have to follow.
It needs to be
certain-
relevant.
Yes, so you can get rid of the guy who
That
came
would
in,
be,
remember the coach that came in here? And he was telling us that he was a concussion guy because he was in the Air Force 20 years before that? That kind of credit.
This chair can issue a subpoena? Did you really just say that? And is there legal? How come I didn't know that when I was chair? I was
The reason they didn't tell you.
What kind of legal backing does that have? Like if our chair issues a subpoena and they don't show, what?
It'd have to be properly served, that's on the family. It's like.
That's considered properly served?
No,
just
they
by-
have to properly serve it.
So we
So
issue
our
it, but
staff
they
would always
serve
be
it.
here, always be, already be here.
Well, obviously, the superintendent can tell the staff, you're gonna be here Tuesday at 10 in the morning.
No subpoena.
Yeah, so those are his witnesses. Presumably, the parents can get the people that are favorable to them to show up. The issue's gonna be, hey, I want that student to show up.
Oh, wow.
So we issue subpoenas and they have to serve it. So they go out, they get a process server. The sheriff's office will usually do it for like $30 or $40. And they'll go to the person on the person and say, you're supposed to be here. If they don't show up, what are your consequences? It's like we don't have the legal arm to say you're gonna go to jail now, but they could presumably say, hey, it was properly served, I want them held in contempt of the proceeding, and they could perhaps delay the proceeding a little bit to seek legal remedies.
Could we make a stipulation if we had I have a couple of questions. Are we waiting until the end to go through this?
Well, I
didn't want
think-
to kind of start jumping in.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think probably what we need to do is if each of you could kind of have a conversation with Mr. Gibbs, just so you understand the ins and outs of all of our options. Obviously, Dr. Mullins needs to speak with staff because we want their input on it as well. And so I think there's an opportunity for us to circle back before we make a decision. I just want to get the ball rolling on the conversations. So that we, if we are in fact going to change the process, we can start working toward that.
I think, I feel like some kind of a pre-hearing meeting would be beneficial to put in place pretty quickly, because then I think we have more people when they realize the scope of the meeting.
And it's just, it's another opportunity to explain. I know Dr. Sullivan does a great job. Meeting and meeting and meeting and meeting, and she got this last one resolved. So, she worked with the attorney, and we didn't have one today, so.
He gave you credit,
Great
Dr.
work.
Sullivan. Just wanted to let you know.
So, it's like if the chair is there and they can go through it one more time with the parents sitting there, it's just another opportunity and a different voice that's saying, hey, this is what's going to happen, this is what we're going to be looking at the final hearing. You aren't going to get to come in here and just argue whatever you want. It's like if you're really concerned about the bullying stuff, we agree that might need to be an issue, but Dr. Mullins can set you up with who you need to talk to get
Why does
that
the board
looked
chair
at.
have to be there? I thought that kind of stuff was handled
It would be, that's who's going to
with
chair
them
that.
all before.
That's who would chair the actual hearing. So if you want, like in your current format, it would be the one member that was going to chair that panel. It would sit as.
What I'm saying though is, I wasn't in on the last one, but it seemed like those things were handled before it even came to us. So it just seems like we're adding another meeting just.
You're adding another layer to make sure everybody understands. You're going to, one, it serves a couple functions. That's the deadline for exchanging witness lists and exhibit lists.
Okay, so they can't.
Anybody
nobody can
not
bring
listed
anything
on
in
that
this.
exhibit list can't be called. Any evidence not listed on that evidence list can't be called. or
So it's
can't
not
be
a three
used.
ring, you're keeping it from being a three-ring
Yeah,
circus, basically.
so it's like you have to do it. You know what witnesses are going to be there and what witnesses are needed. If the district wants to provide them, like if this last one they said they wanted 2 people that were staff members, that would be district's option to say, all right, we'll make sure they're there, or you can get a subpoena and serve them.
Do we have to, the staff, what does that entail in that pre-hearing?
No, it would just be whoever's going to handle it for the district.
Probably
So, hey,
Dr. Sullivan can just come
or-
in and sit.
Or Lena.
Or
Yeah.
whoever. So
Whoever-
one staff,
whoever.
right? That's
Yeah.
what I was getting at.
Yeah,
That's
not
what I
pulling
mentioned.
everybody in.
Because they're
Yeah.
not gonna have all of the
Got it.
staff. Plus that gets all the evidence, all the motions for
Just-
discovery,
just the-
witnesses,
yes. You would-
everything else.
Any motions that want to be heard, like that, parents aren't going to have motions, but an attorney might say, hey, they got these witnesses list, I want them excluded, and here's why. And the chair could resolve that, or say, well, we'll have to bring it up before the hearing.
Does this create a longer lengthy process of the expulsion? Right, so my kid had an action and then now they've waited 21 days and then, is that ever happen or does this actually facilitate quicker?
It could, depending, like, Ms. Belford had mentioned, like, we'll have a standing day. One of my other things was, right now you guys are trying to cram all these into a couple of hours, right? My recommendation is you move them to another day. standing day still for doing that, so that the board knows this is a possible day that we're gonna hold these. You can do the pre-hearings on the board meeting day and have maybe the next week when you don't have a board meeting on Tuesday for the expulsion. That way you know in advance, because the pre-hearings shouldn't take more than 15, 20 minutes.
And realistically, the board chair could set aside one day each week that he or she
Yeah.
could be available for pre-hearings so that we can make sure not to slow it. Because I asked that too, that was a
Yeah.
concern of
It's
mine.
just how it's gonna be set up.
The amount of time and energy, thank you for bringing this, you two working on it, is the amount of energy that you will save our staff and everything with that 15 minutes. Thank you. Like if everything makes sense and they're giving their blessing in the background.
I don't think we're getting a blessing.
No.
But what I do think is that
Sounds
we,
great.
what I do think is that we can sit down and have conversation. If the board thinks that moving toward that pre-hearing type setting is something that we all think would be beneficial, then I can work with Mr. Gibbs and Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Mullins, and we can talk through and see what's going to work for everybody. Because what I don't want to do is, like I said, us charge ahead and
Yeah, 'cause
be.
if they start doing what they did the last time, then I'm gonna ask for removal of their stuff. That's just not official.
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable. So, there's some other stuff I think that we can do as well. So
Sounds good.
with
Thank you.
room set up and some of those other things too. So,
So
are
what
you
looking
guys?
at for us? Do you want us to follow up each individually with you on what our feelings were?
However you want.
Ms. Belford
If you guys
gives
have
directions.
questions, get with me and we can talk about it. I'll
Okay.
answer any questions I can.
Okay.
I can meet with Dr. Mullins and Dr. Sullivan and go over that, what they think needs to be changed and tweaked.
Yeah.
And then obviously Mr. Gibbs will share with you all kind of. I don't think we need to have an official vote on changing a process, but he'll obviously keep you guys in the loop since I can.
And is this gonna be inside your policy you're bringing forward?
A lot of what he said, not everything,
Okay.
but definitely some of the steps that he mentioned that aren't part of our process that are part of Neola will be in there.
We need to work with them on anything that you're gonna bring forward.
We do.
Yeah,
Okay.
they go through.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone have anything else? There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Great job. Look at that.
Nose. Look at that.
Hey, Beth, are you going back to your office or are you going to the board?
Mr. Gibbs, I'm just gonna email you